Bonjour à toutes et à tous et surtout bienvenue. Vous écoutez aujourd'hui Charbon, le podcast qui s'inspire de ceux qui font, proposé par J'ai un pote dans la com. Dans Charbon, nous parlons inspiration, créativité, fougue, envie, travail, vision du monde, et tout ça sans bullshit, mais surtout avec beaucoup de bienveillance.
Dans cet épisode un petit peu particulier qui fait partie du hors-série avec le Havas Startup Accelerator, nous recevons Victoria Duben qui est fondatrice de l'entreprise Viewst. Alors on va revenir dessus plus en détail tout au long de cet épisode. C'est un épisode qui va être exceptionnellement enregistré en anglais. On vous invite donc pour ceux qui le souhaitent à aller sur notre chaîne YouTube ainsi que celle du Havas Startup Accelerator. Une version retranscrite et traduite sera mise en ligne. Donc on va tout de suite switcher en anglais. Welcome, Victoria. You're, as I mentioned, the founder of Viewst, a company helping other company agencies to collaborate, use versioning on creative, and help them to produce faster and smarter. Thank you for being here today. The first question, Victoria, you used to be a tennis woman. You are now an entrepreneur. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you started as a tennis woman, how you arrived as an entrepreneur? You like challenges, apparently. Can you tell us a little bit more about your education, what you did, and what led you today as the founder of Viewst?
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me here today. It's a pleasure. So a little bit of my backstory. Originally, I'm from a small town in Russia, and it used to be, and it is still, a scientific center. And there are so many scientists and like very intelligent people in there. And I don't know why, but they all love playing tennis. So that's actually was my destiny. So when I was like, I think 4 years old, I've started playing tennis and skiing. And I used to be a professional tennis player before 15. But simultaneously, I studied in physics and mathematics gymnasium. So at a certain point, when I was like 15 years old, I had to make up my mind whether I want to proceed as a professional tennis player or I want to do something different in my life. And I've chosen actually the second. And I think that was a very good choice back then because, you know, to become a very successful tennis player, the probability, I'm telling you as a like physicist, so the probability is very low. So to become like top 20, it's very hard. And you need to put like everything into it. But to become like, for instance, a successful, I don't know, scientist or economist or whoever, the probability is much higher. So that's how I ended up studying physics in one of the best universities in Russia, in Moscow State University. And I got a master's degree in physics of low temperature and high and superconductivity.
Okay, so what you did actually, everything started by calculating probabilities of success. So that's typical of an entrepreneur mindset. Thank you, Victoria, for this introduction. You started to explain us a little bit why you choose that path of entrepreneurship. Was there a trigger, except doing the math and then calculate the probability? What was the trigger back then that, you know, made you realize that you wanted to start something, create a business or change the world or life or...
Okay, you know, the funny thing that despite the fact of being like a scientist, I believe in faith. So several times, you know, I usually go with the flow. And when I graduated the university, I was considering to go to the United States to get my PhD. And actually, I applied and got invited, but something went wrong. So I was waiting for the official invitation and papers for so long. So I joined the hedge fund.
Okay, so finance, going from science, so sport, science, and then finance.
Yeah, exactly. So nearly for 10 years, I worked in investment banking. And I've done different kind of things, starting from like analyzing different kind of assets and ended up as a portfolio manager. And I was managing a portfolio of derivatives. And also, you know, I've done sales and trading. So different kind of things in investment banking. And after 10 years, I started to think that I was looking for something different in my life. So I started to think that I want to not simply, you know, trade some intangible assets, but I want to build something, to create something.
Something visible.
Something visible, yeah, maybe something tangible in a way. And at that time, accidentally, I met a guy who was working on an idea. He is an engineer, actually. He is now a very famous blockchain developer. So he asked me to help him to raise funds for his idea because simply I was working like in investment banking. Frankly speaking, I knew nothing about venture, about startups back then because I traded public assets. But I'm a friendly person, so I decided to help him because I like the guy.
So you said yes, and then
Yeah,
we'll
I started
go.
to learn everything, about like venture funding, about startups. And anyway, I was considering to change something in my life. So I quit investment bank back then and I started to learn. And I realized that the idea he was working on might be applicable to advertising. So I've started to learn everything about digital advertising. And that was the period of time when we started to switch all our attention from big screens of laptops to our smartphones. And the behavior patterns they are different because we scroll very fast. And we decided that we will create a new kind of rich media ads. We called it floating ad units. So I succeeded in raising funds, and Igor invited me to join him, and we founded a company back in 2017.
Okay, so it was not that hard for you to raise fund, I guess, because you had maybe contacts in the industry or maybe some equity funds that were maybe keen on investing in your project?
I think I was lucky in a way on one hand, but on the other hand, of course, I understand what investors are looking when they invest their funds. And I tried to pitch the way, to prove that we can do this. Later on, I realized that at the very early stage, most investors usually value the team. And, at a certain stage, like the idea, of course, and the market depth, but first of all, the team. And probably that helped me, a lot back then. And it took me like 1 year to learn like where to apply this technology and how to pitch and everything. And it took me just 2 weeks to raise my first funds.
So the hardest part was to discover the industry, maybe the tools, and maybe benchmarking the current offer. Because we talk a little bit about Viewst without pitching your tool. It's a software as a service tool. Can you tell us a little bit more what problematic you're answering with Viewst and what is your targeted audience?
I would start it a little bit earlier, how I ended up with this idea. So as I mentioned already, in my first project I was working on was also in advertising, but it was different. It was like new kind of rich media ads, we called it. And with this first idea, we actually expanded to 8 countries on 3 continents. And we managed to earn $1 million in revenue just after 18 months. And when we founded the company, I moved to the United States like immediately because I was thinking, okay, Manhattan is eventually the center of media and I have to be there. And that was the best idea because, I would say that venture industry is quite mature in the United States. So you start learning very fast from other founders, from investors, from like the open source of information. And quite quickly, I realized that the idea we were working on wasn't scalable. And it wasn't like a startup thing. It was like an ordinary old school kind of business. In a way, tech-driven agency. But I fell in love in the idea of building a startup and fast-growing company and the tool or solution which can help to really a lot of people, like everywhere. And I started to ask myself a question, okay, what are the pain points and what are the problems in the industry I've been learning over the last like 2-3 years? I've started talking to all our customers and clients, and most of them were like media agencies, big brands, or media houses in all these countries. And actually, frankly speaking, Havas was one of them. And I've started realizing that a lot of them have kind of similar, pain points. Yeah, ads production. Why that? Because everybody have been collecting data. And currently, big brands, they obtain a lot of data and they have an infrastructure like DSP platforms, DMP, SSP, exchanges. So they have the infrastructure to deliver hyper-personalized messages to you and to me. But in fact, they cannot because production is manual. So usually they show like similar things to all of us. Okay, they can do, I don't know, maybe 2-3 different messages, but that's it. And every day we see new digital channels which appear on the market, like social networks, I don't know, TikTok, Snap, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and a bunch of others. And then we have different ad networks. And all these channels, they have different technical requirements. They have different sizes. And it's all like manual work. So creative people, they were born to create. And they are artists. So they want to think on an idea. And they hate doing like copy-paste kind of things.
Yeah, there is AI, programmation, a bit of science in the other part of the workflow, but the creative part is just creating. Yeah. And there is no AI, there is nothing, no tools helping them. Yeah. And that's where you answer that pain point, right?
And on the other hand, there are like performance marketing managers, for instance, who need a lot of different variations in order to show better results. And there are studies by Google and by Facebook that 65 to 70% of a campaign success is driven by creative. And there is a gap between these two teams. And that's probably why they don't like each other in a way, because, it's hard to communicate. They have different KPIs. Eventually, they live on different planets.
Yeah, and you're helping the marketing team and maybe the growth team trying assets, different creative, you said with the statistics. So your tool is a no-code tool. As I said, it's a software as a service tool. You're providing collaborative aspect on the creative, so you can create on the go with different pictures and variation and maybe A/B test things. You keep track of the versioning. You can also edit. It looks like a little bit like another common tool that we may all know that is a Canva, and maybe crossing with a Figma for the collaborative aspect. Can you tell us a little bit more in-depth features that you have with Viewst?
You are so right. So basically, when I started to think on this idea, we were big fans of Canva because of its simplicity, like the easiest way to design. And we were using Figma as well in our team because this was, the tool that let designers collaborate in real time. And we started to think, okay, and there are a lot of specific things related to ads. And we started to think, okay, let's bring together the easiest way to create plus a collaboration. And that's how we ended up with the idea of building Viewst, which is kind of an overlap plus specific features related to ads production. So initial idea was bringing together growth marketers or like marketers and designers so they could stay on the same page, see what's going on, and then probably to help them to eliminate these routine tasks like copy pasting, instead like bring some automation like to resizing and building variations. Yeah, so that was the idea. And to be honest, it took us nearly 2 years to build, I would say, the first version of it.
Okay, the MVP took 2 years.
Not MVP, so I would say that we are already very close to our product market fit. It's usually it's not like a day or a week, it's a period of time. It took us nearly 1 year to research and to play with different prototypes. And, on the back of my first experience with building company, I learned talking to prospects and users a lot. So over this year only, I've done more than 600 interviews myself. And so 1 year we were like analyzing and talking to users and creating prototypes. And we launched our beta 1 year ago in December 2020.
Okay, so the first big step was to gather insights, information from users or future users and how they want to use the tool, how they want to to see the interface, maybe answering their needs, because as you mentioned, Canva and Figma both are sharing a easy to use interface. And I think that's something you're working on hard with Viewst. In what way does the program with Havas Startup Accelerator help you in developing your project? You're working with an agency from the Havas Group. How is it working? Is it like on a monthly basis, the agency sharing some insights from a prospect or potential prospect for Viewst? How is it working in the program for your project?
Sure. So first of all, I think this is the best way to accelerate your growth. Just join the program or like acceleration program or any kind of maybe corporate acceleration or I don't know, other program like YCO 500 Startup. Why I've chosen Havas acceleration program. Okay, it was COVID. So we were working remotely, which makes the new reality. So before COVID, we were considering to choose the program based on the location. Okay, you want to grow in the United States, you were looking for the programs, in the United States. And COVID changed everything. So I started to think, okay, I'm now looking not for the program based on location, but based on the maybe vertical I'm working in, or corporate acceleration program based on my prospects. And that's how I ended up with Havas. I should say that it's not only about choosing the corporate, but also choosing a platform. So Station F is a very famous platform. And I think it's probably the best platform for startups on this side of the ocean, of the Atlantic Ocean. And having these two big names,
made up the decision of joining the program.
Paris, that was my dream for like many years, to live in Paris and have like an excuse to move here.
Well, we're pleased to welcome you here, and we hope that the growth that you're going to have with the Havas Group is going to meet your expectation.
Let me please tell you a little bit more about the process, how it works here. So first of all, I'm very grateful that, I was invited to join this program. And, working with a big media agency, actually, this is a hard challenge, because usually it takes you several months just to open the door and then to start communication and, find the right person who might be interested in testing your tool or talking to you at all. And with Havas, I skipped like several months. So they helped me to open the door to dream potential, client like Havas Digital Factory. And then to several more agencies from the group. And, that supported me a lot because, first of all, I got a lot of very valuable feedback from professional teams for whom actually I'm building the tool. And it helped me to accelerate the development in the right direction, first of all. And then I think that I still have a chance. So it's not like guaranteed, but I have a chance to sign up a big client on the back of the program after several months, because they're also interested. So they have internal KPIs of improving their workflow and to work on their efficiency internally. And they were looking for the tools like Viewst, for instance. So they're also interested.
Yeah, they can be also users of your solution.
Exactly. So for startups, this is the best thing to do, just to join such program.
Yeah, it's also a label. Like you said, Havas is a big actor in this industry, in the advertising industry and communication as well. Do you think that every startup should join such a program? We talked about it with Romain in the introducing episode, that the program was based on the answering a problematic, a pain point. So it was not like we're looking for startup to accelerate, but we are looking for startup that answer a need or answer a problem that we need to address inside the group. Would you recommend to every startup to find such a program, or do you think that you can be fully bootstrapped and on your own? And what you mentioned, do it on your own, like going doors to doors and find prospects and You said that it saved you a lot of time. So this I understand, but do you think that it's applicable to every startup? Do you recommend it to every startup?
Frankly speaking, I should say that, yes, I agree that, in order to be successful and to multiply your chances for success, I would recommend to join a program. But again, you need to do your homework. You need to be very precise in joining, specific program. It's not about like joining the program. There are so many, say, YC alumnus who failed. So acceleration program itself doesn't guarantee you succeed, but it can help you. And if you choose the right program, you can multiply and accelerate your growth. So yeah, for the startups who work in, digital ad space and marketing, this is kind of a no-brainer to join such program. If you work, in robotics, okay, you should find some other programs.
Yeah, it's like the product market fit actually, but with the startup and program fit. Thank you, Victoria. We have a common question that we like to ask in this podcast because it's named charbon in French. How would you describe this French verb of charbonner? We translated it to you so that you can understand. How would you translate this expression? What is for you the meaning of charbonner?
When I first heard this word, my reaction was like l'art de vivre. So I spent several years in New York before moving to Paris. And, if there is one word to describe New Yorkers, they are workaholics. And it's crazy, to be honest, it doesn't make you happy. So you work really hard, you work a lot, but it doesn't make you happy, healthy, successful. You just, it makes you maybe depressed and you get anxiety and whatever. And when I moved to Paris in September, it was, sunny days and a lot of sun.
You were lucky.
Nice weather. And, I got used to walk around a lot because I like, watching, sightseeing and everything. And especially now in Paris, this is a history. And I started to notice immediately so many people sitting outdoors, drinking wine or coffee, smiling. And I was like, wow, I missed it a lot. And then I realized after several weeks, I guess, that I started to wake up earlier, that, I've started to prioritize important things. I've started to have more
a routine.
free and quality time for myself. And it happened to me. So I didn't plan it. I was, enjoying my life in Paris. And then after several weeks, I just realized that it changed. And, I started to think, okay, I love it much, much more. So on one hand, I see there is a good pace of doing things. So it's not too relaxed as, for instance, in Rome and even Milan. So I like this. But on the other hand, I have time to live my life, to meet friends, to enjoy, my life.
Yeah, so for you, it would be the right mix of working hard and then enjoying time.
Yeah, so I love charbonner much more than workaholic.
Yeah, working hard. Yeah, okay. Perfect, you answered correctly. What would be for every future startupper, what would be your advice that you would want to give? Or it could be also the same advice you could give to yourself younger, go ahead, start your business. If you have an idea, go. What would be your advice?
I think I would only advise to follow your dream always. If you have a dream, don't be afraid to fall. Don't be afraid to fail. Just, because it's what makes you happy.
Yeah, again, we're talking about happiness and the right mix and finding what motivates you to wake up, I guess, in the morning, find your routine and find your purpose, maybe also what you want to achieve, what problem in the world or in an industry that you want to solve. Thank you, Victoria. It's almost the end of this podcast episode. We talked about innovation with your tool. Do you have an idea of when will you launch the final version? You talked about the beta version. Do you have any idea for teasing a little bit the audience listening to this podcast? What would be your dream date of launching?
Yeah, so I would say, it's a constant journey, and you are floating from one version to another constantly. So there is no date. And I think that in order to be successful, you need to evolve all the time. And you need to be very agile, and you need to hear what your users trying to tell you and their feedback, and, just develop.
Constantly developing and adapting to the needs and to the habits of your target audience. Thank you very much, Victoria. C'est la fin de cet épisode. Merci à tous de nous avoir écoutés. N'hésitez pas à laisser 5 étoiles sur Apple Podcast. Ça fait toujours plaisir et ça nous aide à remonter. Vous l'aurez compris, c'était un podcast de la série avec le Havas Startup Accelerator. Quant à moi, je vous dis à très bientôt pour un prochain épisode.